Well, hello, and welcome to the last week of November, where we have really, well, I can only speak for myself and some of my clients that relate to this, that I've really been feeling like I've been hit by a 2x4, especially when it comes to clear communications where one can speak truth. Without ruffling too many feathers. Hi, Ulrika. Nice to see you here. And Linda. Um, so happy and so deeply appreciate all of you. And let's face it, last week was pretty hectic. I don't know about you, but I've certainly had an inbox inundated with a lot of these Black Friday offers. And I've kind of been wondering, what's going on? How can we actually create peace and calm in times where we really are in uncharted waters again? And it's certainly got choppy. I've certainly had to learn how to reevaluate and really integrate some of my own ancestral trauma. And one of my incredible soul sisters, Tracy Benevito, sent me a beautiful gift today, which was a message from peacock medicine. So before I do the weekly forecast from the other animals, I just am so open to receiving and sharing with you that beautiful energy of peacock, which has a very close association to the phoenix, like rising up out of the ashes, and really looking at how we can rebirth ourselves and regenerate ourselves and stand in our the confidence of our truth, or stand confidently in our truth, and really shed all these old programs and patterns, especially the ancestral and familial trauma that might have come rising up to the surface if you celebrate Thanksgiving and perhaps were triggered by family members or people that were coming into your space that maybe you haven't seen for a long time. And on a really high note, what I love about the medicine of peacock, I mean, they're just such majestic birds, aren't they? That really, all their feathers, really, with those sort of eyes on all of their feathers, is that felt sense for me of really turning inward and looking with a widened perspective about what needs to die, what needs to be let go of, and that energy of Kuan Yin and Lakshmi, which has a lot to do with how we view and see ourselves as successful or prosperous or wealthy. And no matter how much money is in your bank account, it's really about how you feel, how rich you feel inside by the relationships in your life and the people that contribute to really showing you who you are. And of course, the animals, which are such incredible mirrors to us, who never lie, they never censor, they just show us the truth and the purity of who we are. And as all animals do, to remind us to tread gently on our animal body and be patient and persistent and compassionate, and benevolence, to be quite fierce in the medicine, to not let anything throw you, of course. And of course, it doesn't matter how long you practice or how long you've been doing this work, if like me, being human, sometimes we get really shook up whether whether we see it coming or not. And I certainly have experienced a lot of backlash from those old paradigms of competition over collaboration and a lot of insecurity along the way. So it really is time, and I love that I got that as an anchor today. And I'm going to use the peacock energy for all of us, because my friend so generously gave that to me this morning, and it just seems so aligned to embrace your inner truth and allow your true colors to show through all the lies and the illusions and the places where maybe you are dimming your light or shrinking back because you're afraid of being judged or persecuted. And I certainly had a lot of that show up last week when I was trying to give you my animal communication 5-day mini-series where with the full moon in Gemini on Friday, it really was this really fierce medicine to tell me to stop speaking outward and to go within. So I kind of spent the whole weekend in silent walking, living meditation to really look at walking my talk. And that old saying of say what you do, don't do what do what you say, don't say what you do. And looking at some of this very confusing energy that's sort of coming up right now as these old patterns of abuse fall away around how we're showing up and how we're giving generously and how we're serving in the world, or at least it was certainly that for me, to look at that and then sort of have this beautiful anchor of peacock saying, be consistent, be graceful, be confident, and look at attracting the like with the like. Don't let people that are still sort of stuck like the crabs in the pot from pulling you back down into those old pattern repeats of abuse, and embrace the lessons that are coming up for you. Because when we do that, the world is really full of magical, beautiful things, and it's patiently waiting, just like the animals are, for us to come to our senses, to literally have to be shaken awake by certain discomforts or old triggers that might be coming up for you. So that full moon in Gemini on Friday, it's still moving through, and it really is saying to all of us to take some time, if you haven't already, to introspect into when that new moon started in June, in that aspect of communications and how you're speaking your truth or holding your truth back, and how it's come full completion on Friday to looking at those one-on-one communications and being very clear and exact, which has always been a challenge for me, because as clear and exact as I think I'm being, it very easily gets misconstrued. Why? Because oftentimes when we're kind of inadvertently pushing other people's buttons, or we're getting triggered, we need to recognize and treat that child part that is feeling vulnerable or feeling threatened or feeling afraid of rejection and abandonment, which is probably one of our own core woundings and what takes us away from trust, to really treat that child with compassion and ask the child parts within you what they need. So just remember, you have all the information you need available to you inside of you, and you are exactly where you need to be. So be still and listen as you sort of move in, and take time to celebrate and let go of anything you initiated in June when that new moon was in Gemini. And if you see the value of that introspection, go back and examine, where were you in 2003? And that was a biggie for me, because that was kind of when my life as I knew it, my marriage, my business, everything was burnt to the ground. And this beautiful phoenix rising from the ashes is taken, it's taken, what is it, 2013, 2003. So it's taken this 8-year cycle of constantly shedding all of these old layers. It doesn't always happen at once. And some of the questions, hi Grant and Cinda Seaware and Taryn, lovely to have you here. Yeah, competition and misunderstanding in friendships. Yep, it's a biggie. So yeah, I think we're all being asked, and I certainly have been feeling that call to look at what else is there that needs to be let go of. What do I need to surrender into, and where do you need to perhaps tune into your wise woman within, the intuitive sense of your body's incredible network of information that is in you. It's in your divine blueprint. It's on your DNA. It's on your past life experiences, in Akasha, to really look at your inner guidance systems and look at what is true for you. How can you start to declutter some of this information overload and this excessive noise that's coming from the outside, and doing what it's designed to do, to distract you from focusing on your true north, focusing on where you are going and what your mission and purpose and vision is for life, no matter what anybody does to try and derail you. And I certainly know what that feels like, because it felt like I was being clobbered left, right, and center at the end of last week around that full moon time. So ask yourself, what is it that you need to make a decision on? Where are you not fully committed? Where can you deepen into your commitment and use that anchor card of the peacock energy to look at rising from the ashes, renewed with a sense of purpose and commitment to your life purpose, and asking your spirit guides and your animals, whether they're in physical form, your animal teachers, or animals in spirit, what they need to show you and what you need to examine, especially around that period of 2003. What is it that you need to let go of, and what is your next step? Remember, we always say inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. So it's in those 1 degree shifts that you can start looking at focusing on what you are creating your life as. What are you living into as your legacy? And to stop listening to all the outside distraction and just end, because you choose it to be so, this information overload, the endless chatter and the chaos and the confusion, which makes it really hard for you to pick up the right pieces of information that are aligned with your true nature. So it's really important right now to listen closely and create moments of silence so that you can hear the whispers of your inner guidance to take the next right step, and also receive the wisdom from your ancestral helping spirits and your team players and your animal guides along the way. I know it's a lot, but it's like we're coming up to the last couple of weeks of 2018, and it is that 11/11 energy where we're asking to look at how are we leading our own lives. Where are we going from that place of integrity and compassion, and also knowing that even though we may really want something and we might plan ahead and look at how we're going to reach those goals, we need the adaptability. Because when we project plans and create timelines and to-do lists, we do this with our rational linear thinking mind, which perceives time as this flat line. And this is actually a very limited way of looking at the world, because everything happens in cycles and it's not linear. So, another reason why I offered a very special sort of bundle of work on how to work with entities and spirit guides, and how to clear out the magnetic imprinting of years and centuries and lifetimes of abuse or detrimental energy impregnation in that special offer that I put out on Friday. It's all about entities and first aid techniques that you can use for you and your animals, and to really anchor yourself into this new energy so that you don't get overwhelmed and confused and get sort of taken away on the tide or the riptide from your intuition and your heart's knowing, so that you can really hear where you're being called and where your energy might be scattered, and you're creating very scattered, disjointed results, or miscommunication, or misdirecting your energy onto people and things that are just pulling you down into those old patterns of destruction. So if you've been finding yourself like me in this sort of onslaught of attack or persecution or an overwhelm of information, and you just kind of have lost your footing, just know that the power of choice is yours, and decisiveness calls for clarity first. So find the answers inside of you. They're not outside. And this is really that moon in Gemini where we're being asked to look at the discussion or the contrast between our lower ego mind and our higher intuitive, all-knowing, all-being I am presence, the self that is connected to omnipresence and communion and oneness with all of life, and what the animals are so great at sharing with us. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Linda. I'm glad this is making sense. I feel like I'm kind of rattling this off because we're learning to ride new waves. And this really is at the beginning of November, where that new moon in Scorpio marked that beginning of a whole new cycle in our personal and collective evolution. And it is that call to transmute our destiny and consciously manifest a brilliant future that's far greater than the one that you may have inherited. And until now, maybe you've been living out in unconscious repatterning. And I think it's important also to just push pause and remind yourself, as I've had to remind myself over the last few days, that it doesn't all just transmigrate and transform at once. It's layer upon layer, just like pulling a hood off of a falcon. If you pull it off too quickly, you get blinded by the light, and then you go back into learned helplessness or codependency or shutdown. So we have to be gentle with ourselves and let the light come in through the cracks, little by little, and remember to appreciate how far you have come in healing these wounds. It's never a one magic step or a magic pill that you take it and then everything is changed. And I was having this conversation with a client earlier that you can clear your space and you can really manage your energy, but you can't just do it once. It's a daily practice. That's why it's called training, right? We're all sort of in our training days and maybe taking off those training wheels and letting go of the need to try and control or have some predictability in everything and adapt to those choppy waters. So, wow, it's a lot right now. And I think as we sort of go and move toward Christmas and the end of a new year and the new year, we all know that there's an amplification of this urgency to get everything done. But take time to push pause on the world and just reconcile old beliefs and patterns and pathways and boundaries. Look at your boundaries. Which ones are too rigid that you need to let go of? Where do you need to create healthier boundaries, especially in your one-to-one relationships? And how can you start to remember your divine true nature in the ways of being you, in the path that you're choosing, and to create more harmony in those patterns. Know that balance is not stagnant. It's not a flat line. It's constantly moving, just as every cell in our body is constantly communicating to the other cell and speaking to the general, the liver, who decides what to keep and what to let go of at the end of every day. And when it doesn't get the opportunity to do that, things get backed up, and then we start to have illnesses and patterns of disharmony showing up in all our relationships, including the one with our body and other people. And so that's it. It's just trust that you're enough, trust that you've got this, trust that if you are finding yourself, as I was over the weekend, that you don't have anything to prove and you have nothing to hide. And it's okay to take time to go inward and just give yourself compassion to listen deeply to your heart's calling, because we're being asked not only to transcend our own destiny and consciously create a future far greater than what we inherited, but we're also being asked and called to trust fully and embrace the next chapter in our story before we even know what it might entail. So requiring our sort of ultimate trust is an uncomfortable place to be. This is why I do the work that I do, because I know that my soul urge and my greatest lesson in life is to trust that completion, it never ends. It's just completing that one cycle and then looking at the next cycle and asking the body what is a priority for it in this moment, because it's through our body that we get to experience this brutal and beautiful thing called being human at this time in space, where we're all being called to use our small but mighty lives to make a bigger impact and give more generously and speak our truth without holding anything back. So, this is the ultimate trust, isn't it? Where, oh my gosh, the breakdown of all these old paradigms is now absolute. And this is a feeling that we need to give ourselves time to adjust and acclimatize to. So trust in your ability to ride the wave with inspiration, with curiosity, with a beginner's mind into the unknown, and to consciously create new and better ways of being. And look at that from a place of that it's not just a desire anymore, not from a lack, but from a demand, a fierceness, that the lions constantly show us, that it's lion-hearted leadership that is essential not only to our survival, but to the survival of our planet. Trust is everything. Yeah, even when you're hurt in the process. Absolutely. And I think those are the moments that really stop us, because I guess that's why they're called challenges, Linda, because if they weren't challenging to us, we wouldn't learn the lessons that we need to learn. And I've been sitting here shuffling the cards. So use peacock medicine this week. Tap into Lakshmi and all the energies of peacock and the phoenix rising out of the ashes. I love that Joe Phoenix is here too, because you guys get this. Hi, Kelly and Joe, and I hope this been helpful. But I think it's just so important too at the sort of when the full moon starts to wane, to really know that the energy doesn't just stop because it's no longer the full moon. This is the progression and the life cycle, the feeding cycle of everything. And we have to keep aiming for our targets of what we want with the freedom and the expansion, to look at where you're being impatient, where you are setting unrealistic goals as well. So I hope you found that helpful. So use peacock as the anchor card, and we've got rabbit medicine showing up. And again, it's just like, I think rabbit is a beautiful, also gentle energy. And rabbit is so sensitive. His body's very, very close to the ground. And of course, he's terrified of everything. If you know the story of rabbit medicine, he look at what you're afraid of. I don't want to go too much longer. I see we've been going 22 minutes already, but I think, the key sort of element that rabbit sort of brings up in light of the conversation that we're having for the forecast for the week is to look at where you are being a frightened little rabbit, and your little whiskers are twitching, and maybe you're afraid to move, or you're frozen in fear, or somebody else's projections have kind of got you in a holding pattern of inertia, because you're terrified to move forward, for fear of being prey for something, or being persecuted. So rabbit's really there with peacock to say, what are you afraid of? Look underneath the fear and see what it is that's really, really going on, because you may be surprised to find out that it's not what you thought it was. And I always love to say, act from a place of as if it's already happened. So go through, okay, I'm feeling really afraid right now. What is it that I require? Who are the people and the energies and the spirits that I can call upon to support me in this place where I'm feeling slightly terrified? And I certainly have been there myself, on and off over the last couple of days, but to look at what's underneath it. And also remember, your kidneys, your whole urinary system, your whole sexual chakra is based on, the basic drives of passive and active reproduction. So it's like looking at where are you holding back in your creativity for fear of, and then acting as if you are fully aligned and confident and powerful, that you're stepping into that and using rabbit medicine as a trusty ally to show you where you really need to look at things that are perhaps out of integrity and out of congruence, that are keeping you in that cycle of fear, so that you can start to move through and looking at, well, what question I asked, what's the worst thing that could happen if I choose this? And then knowing that, okay, if that's the worst thing that can happen, there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. And the third card for tonight from Peacock and Rabbit is this beautiful energy of dragonfly. And I love dragonfly energy. Very, very sort of similar in the medicine of frog, to take the leap of faith from Rabbit and look at where we need to adapt to these deep waters, this choppy water. Dragonfly starts its life as this little nymph underneath the water, and then he emerges and takes flight. So looking at where you can start bridging the gap between creating heaven on earth from what if everything is aligned, everything is working for me, and that's my dog, who can open doors, and there's going to be a bang. Hello, Rover. And I guess that's my signal that time is up. But look at dragonfly energy. There's a lovely meditation with dragonfly medicine over on my SoundCloud account. I'll attach it below this video. But using this, because dragonfly reminds us that of the capacities that we all have to shapeshift, to transmography, to transmigrate, right? To manipulate time when we are in a space that is expanded, not from a linear timeline that is finite, but to really look at the infinite possibilities that are available to you when you can embrace the wisdom of dragonfly, to spread your wings and take flight, and also dip into the water. And it's so beautiful when you see dragonfly dancing above the water. It's almost in reverence and ceremony from his birthplace under the surface of the water. So look at where there are fears that were under the water. Of course, the full moon always brings those water emotions up to the surface, and see what are you ready to shed? What are you ready to burn to the ground, and rise up again with this newfound or remembering that you are brave and fierce and resilient, and this too shall pass. So that's it for this week. Have a good week. Make it matter. And just remember, listen to your intuitive guidance. Trust what you know, like you know. And that way you can stay anchored to that medicine of Peacock, to know that everything is happening for you and through you. And not just asking, what can you contribute to life and the greater good of all, but what can life contribute to you as well? Because everything is a gifting and a receiving. And that way you don't get burnt out or stuck in a one-way street. Just remember that everything is there for you, and reach out and touch somebody and support others that might be looking for a little anchor like this. Please like it, share it, give me your insights, your comments. Thank you, Linda. Yes, this too shall pass. And I think it passes a lot more, with a lot more grace and a lot more ease, like swan medicine, that just reminds us that we can glide through life. We can take flight. We can come down and land and rest when we need to. And everything is in divine right timing. So that's it. I'll leave it at that. Hi, Philippa. We've just finished today's forecast. So please go back and listen to the replay. And please post me your comments, your insights, what's coming up for you, and how I can better support you in moving forward in your living legacy, and knowing that we all are doing the best we can with what we have, and we're all in this together. So trust in life, trust in yourself, and that way then you get to trust in others, and trust in the something on a grand scale, like the universe or divine or God or a dog, which is God in God spelt backwards. Our animal companions are just so patient and generous with their lessons to help grow and evolve us. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful week wherever you are, and I will speak to you soon. All right, take care. Bye.